Welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time and talk about them. My name is Ben Errington, and today I am joined by regular co-host Mr.
Andy Conduit-Turner. Hello, Ben, and indeed everybody. How you all doing?
Hello, I love
Hi.
you. Hello,
Hey.
hello there. Hi there.
Yeah, for once I said everybody, and there's more than one person that can physically answer me. Hello.
Exactly. Well done. I love your upbeat attitude, Andy. It's one thing that I always appreciate.
I like to imagine that somewhere in the world there are people that go, "I'm all right, Andy, thanks very much." I always say goodbye to Richard Osman at the end of House of Games. Maybe it works both ways.
I'm sure it does. So we're joined by a very, very special pair of guests, Sarah Appleton and Jasper Sharp, the directors of The J Horror Virus, a feature documentary co-directed by the two of them about the global eruption of horror from Japan. Welcome, Sarah and Jasper. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi there. If you listened to our Fright Fest episode, you would have heard our review of the film and also our small interview with Sarah and Jasper, which was fun. But yeah, we're going to do a big take on of one particular film from the J horror boom this week, which is Ju-on the Grudge. Very, very exciting.
Woohoo. We love Ju-on.
Woohoo! We love Ju-on.
Thanks for having us.
No, thanks. Thank you. Welcome. And thank you for taking the time to join us. Yeah, so I guess we should jump straight in with talking about the J horror virus. Obviously, we were there at Fright Fest for it was the world premiere, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Actually, then. Wow, amazing experience. Obviously, it's showed at a few festivals since then, and you've got loads lined up for October. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it's actually screened anywhere else, has it?
No,
it hasn't.
Could have
No,
things happening. Yeah.
The
We've
funny
got a big
thing.
bus.
Sorry.
Sarah. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just going to say the funny thing about genre festivals, they tend to all be in October, except for Fright Fest, which chooses the hottest month of the year. But just so happens to be the scary month in Japan, right? August. So
Very thematic.
Oh, is that true?
I think you mentioned this in the screening in the Q&A. Why is it that it's scary month in Japan? Is it just because it's so hot in their summer and they want to be inside in the aircon?
Yeah, something like that. Wasn't
Yeah,
it?
this is the Obon Festival. So it's the bit when the dead ancestors are meant to come back and visit the living, when the borders between the living and the dead are at their most sort of porous. So I think it's just a traditional, because it's so hot and humid in Japan, especially in summer, that you just, as we mentioned in the film, that there's that great association with clamminess and dampness and that sort of general sweaty, oppressive heat you get in Japan. So the idea was you tell ghost stories to sort of cool people down, to chill the blood.
Oh, that's nice. And as you mentioned, it's when the barriers between, the living and the dead, when your dead ancestors come. Like, I've been around when a Christmas visit's dragged on too long. You go to the cinema, it's a good way not to talk to your family that are visiting for a while.
Oh wow, I do like escaping to the cinema when it's super, super hot, because obviously aircon's not really a thing in the UK. So get that aircon pumped up to I think at Fright Fest the aircon was spectacular.
Oh, that was working overtime. Like the lobby where it wasn't so powerful on the first night, I was fading fast. I'm glad to get in those screens.
Yeah, isn't it too cold though? Because you end up that's how everyone gets sick, because you're like really hot and then you sitting there shivering.
Yeah, so sitting there in shorts and t-shirts and stuff, and then it's like an icebox.
Who's taking a jumper in the height of summer to the cinema?
Exactly. Me and Andy in the IMAX screen snuggled up
for
the whole duration.
It's like I bought a light summer jacket. We can use it as a blanket together.
Oh,
but
very
over your
nice.
knees.
But over your little cold knees. Oh wow. But yeah, Fright Fest. You both had a great time, I assume. Yeah.
Did you manage to catch many other films, or was it all business while you were there?
Well, we had the funny thing where the first screening was on Friday morning, first thing on Friday morning. So we got up at the crack of dawn to get up for that. And then the second one was sort of last thing on the Sunday. So we just had lots of time just to sort of hang around and twiddle our thumbs, really. I like to say we were watching films, but actually most of it we were in the pub. So
that's all right.
That's perfectly fine.
Yes.
I'm sure you saw some horrors in the pub.
A film? Huh?
I'm sure you saw some horrors in the pub.
A lot of horrors in the pub, yeah.
Oh,
Oh no.
Wall to wall.
Jake was there, wasn't he? Joking, Jake.
He won't be listening back to this. He'll listen to his own episode.
Hope
He'll
not.
listen to his own episode. After that, no longer interested. Don't blame him. So yeah, I mean, I guess when we did interview at Fright Fest, we talked about your origins of your love for the genre of J-horror and why you chose this as for your next documentary, because obviously the documentary before Sarah was the found footage phenomenon. Was J-horror always going to be the next documentary you're going to make?
No.
Oh.
For me, no. Me and Phil were going to make a different one, and then that got curtailed. So we didn't do that. And then me and Jasper just kind of figured his expertise in Japanese cinema, which he will tell you about in a minute, combines quite well with my skills for making documentaries. I mean, maybe not everyone will think that's very skilled, but I do. And so
if you're thinking that, what have you done recently? Come on.
If you're thinking that, let's see your documentary on the found footage phenomenon and the J-horror virus, okay?
So when you've got those credentials, then we can talk. Otherwise, on your bicycle, all right?
Exactly. So what do you think, Jasper?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I've been writing about Japanese film for like 25 years. So I started off with this website, Midnight Eye, with Tom Mez. And it was sort of tail end of the 90s when lots of interesting stuff was coming out. And we've sort of drawn to stuff like, Shinichi Tsukamoto, Takeshi Kitano, not necessarily the J-horror. But I mean, you can't ignore the fact when Ring came out, I remember seeing it like on a sort of bootleg. I've got a VCD actually at the time, but yeah,
love a VCD.
Yeah, I purchased on eBay, sent over from Hong Kong with really shoddy English subtitles. But this sort of buzz around the film grew on the internet because I used to be into horror a lot in the 80s, early 90s, but as far as I'm concerned, by the late 90s, the genre pretty much died out and I'd lost interest. And then Ring came along and it's like, oh, this is sort of really interesting, and it's actually scary. It's not jump scares, it's not sex and gore. All the stuff that I thought I loved in horror wasn't there, but it was still really effective as a film. So and I think the way that film really sort of gathered traction on internet discussion groups and people seeing it by bootleg long before the UK release. Really, it was like a virus. It sort of echoed exactly the same way that Adako's curse sort of spreads throughout the Ring. So it was very self-referential. So yeah, that was my intro into the world of J-horror. I mean, I wouldn't say I was like a huge fan of the genre above everything else in Japan, but certainly it was like the most significant sort of boom, I think, most significant globally influencing movement in Japanese cinema that I think we'd ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, even for someone who's sort of like a casual fan of horror would be, you know, the impact from Japanese horror just from seeing obviously the remakes, the American remakes, which we did discuss briefly. I guess we will discuss The Grudge a little bit as well if we got to. Yeah. So yeah, that was where your origins of love of the genre came from, and then yeah, I guess you just thought this is perfect. It's the right time, I guess, to make it, because it seems like a lot of people are still really enjoying the genre as well, and festivals as well seem to be putting on, little runs of Japanese horror. I saw that J-horror virus is being shown before. Is it before the Ringu at a festival in October?
Yeah, the Brooklyn Horror Film Festival in Brooklyn, New York, is doing a Japanese horror segment, and Ring is playing first, as far as I'm aware, but it's not like all in one day. It's over the course of the festival.
Wow. Okay.
And
yeah, so like a sidebar.
I think the reason that they're doing it now is because it's Ring 25th anniversary. So I think that some people might argue that it's too soon, but we would definitely argue that J-horror has had its day, which is something that me and Phil kind of tried to argue with the found footage, but totally failed because found footage came back in 2020 when we were making it.
Oh,
so
no.
So have you
Yeah.
done this? Have you done this sort of speculatively to bring J horror back as well by declaring it over?
No.
Well, it's
Please,
sort of
God.
funny because, you know, the beginnings of Midnight Eye, I mean, you know, first 10 years I was writing, J horror was omnipresent, and everything that was getting released in the UK by Tartan on the Asia Extreme label, J horror, J horror, J horror, to the extent of very little else making it through. So I was sort of, by 2010, sort of sick to the hind teeth of J horror. But then it sort of petered out because the producer that was making all these films, Takashi, he went bankrupt, and then Tartan went bankrupt, and so suddenly there was, you know, the genre sort of came to an abrupt end, and there have been Japanese horrors made obviously across the 2010s, but really that main boom, we could say, was over. It was sort of on the steep sort of decline, and I mean, I think from my point of view, I think of that as being really recent, and then you sort of scratch your head and look back and go, actually that was quite a while back. So it's the right time has elapsed to actually put it in some sort of historical context, I think.
So don't be so everyone. We all know 2000 was 10 years ago. It's not that long. Don't worry. It was only 1980 was only 20 years ago, as I recall. So don't worry about it. Sorry though, Sarah, you were saying.
Yeah, what were you going to say, Sarah?
No. I've forgotten.
The train of thought has been ringed.
Yeah.
No, I guess it's obviously I don't want to be too negative, but I do feel like only a few of them were really legitimately like scary, and they totally lost that for some reason. Somehow, with all the you know, trying to do the same thing again, they just lost whatever it was that made them scary.
I guess
that's
there's
true
like
of a lot of things though, right? Like, you know, when things become, instead of being like really revolutionary, they get to become rote. I think looking back at some things from other subgenres of horror, like you look at things that are taken for granted in a slasher movie, and then especially if you watch them out of sequence, sometimes we watched Peeping Tom not long ago, and you think, oh, okay, I'm familiar with this from slasher movies or this type of film, and then you think, this came out in 1960. Like this is, you know, the earliest. This is where all these tropes come from.
Yeah, totally. And that's why we sort of went backwards with the J horror virus, you know, to look at stuff where did the stuff in Ring come from? Because everyone says it all started with Ring, which is just obviously not true if you're in Japan. It's true if you're in the UK or in the US.
Just the first one that
the looking at how like a Japanese cinema being in like a period of sort of what is low ebb in the early 90s to sort of suddenly just coming out, you know, with all these sort of global titles and really looking at how the genre emerged through the eyes of the voices of the people who are actually involved in shaping it and making the films. And we do make the point, I mean, it came from the straight to video, you know, industry before it went theatrical and before it went Hollywood. So it's sort of a really interesting trajectory anyway.
Yeah,
it is phenomenal. And like you just saying this, and it's just thinking about it now as well, feeling that it took a while for a lot of Japanese cinema to break through and make a real cultural impact certainly in the Western world. But it's so funny thinking that it almost took them that long, bearing in mind the other things, you know, other parts of Japanese media that did break West a lot sooner. Like, I know it's huger now than it perhaps was in the late 1990s, early 2000s, but, you know, the Japanese style of comic making is now enormous here. The fact that you get adaptations of things like One Piece currently topping like Netflix's charts, the fact that video games being exported from Japan, probably fundamentally, particularly story-driven ones like RPGs, hugely influential from sort of late 80s, early 90s even. And then it took cinema that little bit longer. But then looking at how that has impacted other things as well, I know as soon as I conjure the words Resident Evil, Ben will be straight in. But looking at the video games that, you know, we didn't necessarily get translated over here, but with that growth in interest, I would argue that the growth in interest of items like, you know, like The Ring and like Grudge that got people specifically invested in Japanese horror has probably made people look back not only through cinematic history, but looking back through those other examples of Japanese media horror. Look in comics now, how popular Junji Ito is. I can see huge, thick volumes of his work in Waterstones for terrifying prices as well at what they're listing them at. But yeah, it's really cool to see how these things might even be connected, and how one thing has perhaps helped raise other parts of media up as well, just beyond cinema.
Well, definitely.
Yeah.
When I started writing about Japanese cinema, I mean, you would almost have to qualify every time you mention the word manga. And it's, oh yeah, Japanese adults read comics and stuff. And there was no graphic novel culture really in the UK in the 90s, I'd say. So, and the idea of going to the supermarket and be able to buy sushi, I mean, I think it's all part and parcel of that globalization process. But I mean, the other thing was, though, you were saying about Japanese cinema not being, watched at that time. I mean, obviously, when we started Midnight Eye, there was a lot of books on all the classic ages, Akira Kurosawa, Ozu, Mizoguchi. And so there was an impact in the 50s and 60s, even early 70s. But I think that was the old guard of critics were there, like saying basically Japanese cinema is dead. There's nothing worth interest here. But I mean, they were looking at films of like a sort of more artistic type of filmmaking, not necessarily genre filmmaking. So I think that's definitely, I think it was tied in as well. With Midnight Eye, definitely the success of it was tied in with the fact that DVD had first started, and so people could get films with subtitles, which wasn't really a thing with the VHS age.
Yeah, and of course, being able to choose several different languages, I guess I'd never really thought of the amount of accessibility that gave to non-English language cinema. The fact that you could do it in several languages.
Well, yeah, Midnight Eye started in 1999, and I would get not a lot of stuff was available in the UK, but you could basically go on eBay with this new thing called the internet, which was only just really people, permeating everyone's homes, order a Hong Kong VCD with English subtitles. So you suddenly had access to a whole new world of cinema beyond what you had in the days when you were reliant on Blockbuster.
Exciting.
Anyways, you're pulling these thematic things, Jasper. You're already, like, bearing in mind, we'll no doubt cover thematically how often J-horror is, purveyed on the corruption of a technology. We'll see it a lot as we go through this movie as well. And yet, in fact, it owed a lot to technology. It helped it break out there as well and infect the world. You've done it.
We can go home now.
Well, exactly. That's why it's a virus, right? Because in the Ring novel, they really focused on it being a virus, like a thing that you could explain in science, which didn't necessarily come over in the film. And that's what J-horror did, right? Became a virus, kind of infecting everyone in the world. So I don't know, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of thinking of it, definitely. Where do you think the Grudge series stands within J-horror? Do you think it's like the Jewel in the Crown, or overall, or do you no?
I will happily say that it's one of the ones for me that doesn't really match a lot of the tropes that you see in the other ones, particularly the technology thing. I think somebody argued with me about this the other day. What technology is in it?
Well, there is Ju-on 2, isn't there? When it's like a film crew. Ju-on 2, the Grudge 2. There is that, the whole story revolves around people going to make a TV documentary on this haunted house.
Right.
So it's sort of getting back.
But the thing is, it is about a haunted house, and it that is a different kind of ghost than this, because you have to go in the house to get infected by this ghost, whereas with the Ring, it's like in a videotape that you can watch with one missed call. I think it just spreads through the contact lists in people's mobile phones, so the technology element isn't there. Like in Cairo, it's like via the internet, isn't it? So at least it really is in the remake, very much so. Dark Water, I guess, is very similar, that it's in that building, isn't it? So maybe, I don't know, maybe you can argue that it can still be a haunting in a haunted house, but I just feel like that's slightly more old-fashioned Japanese horror.
Because she materializes through CCTV cameras and TVs.
Yeah, she does do that.
There is.
She'll get on the intercom of your business, of your house as well. She'll get amongst it. She'll get you anyway. Nick the little teddy bear off your little phone mascot. put it back in your hand when you're in bed. She's all amongst it.
Oh, my take on it is that I was living in Japan, sort of 2002 to 2005, and by that stage with Midnight Tide, we'd had the first wave of J-horror in the wake of The Ring. You know, there was a whole succession. All of The Ring sequels got released on double bills with stuff like Tomie, Inagami, Isola, the multi-personality girl. There was like this whole sort of initial blip, and then Pulse came along and sort of, I mean, ironically, because it's probably one of the best films the genre has to offer, but it flopped at the box office, and Japanese producers were going, oh, okay, already this J-horror has run out of steam as a commercial genre. But it was at 2002, I was at the Tokyo Film Festival, and the biggest hot ticket film that all the critics were going mad about was the Ring Hollywood remake, not any of the Japanese films. And I remembered I was trying to get an interview with a director and started talking to a Japanese producer, and he goes, oh yeah, I work for this sales agent, you know, we've got this new film, do you want to see it? And handed me a VHS tape, and I took it home and watched it, sort of like The Ring, basically. And it was Ju-on. And I remember being sort of underwhelmed at the time, because I was watching it on a tiny TV screen and with a, you know, one of those TVs where you had the VHS machine combined with the TV. And it was like a sort of second generation dupe, so it was pretty grainy, and wasn't madly impressed with it. I was confused by it because it's just like it goes off all over the place. Its structure is just odd. And then I saw it. I got invited to a press screening sort of after, and watched it in a cinema on 35mm, and it seemed like a totally different film because there's so many details in the frame. You know, I just remember this scene of like the guy, you know, a hospital door opening and you see Toshio reflected in the glass, and little touches like that are really unnerving. But I think my take on it at the time was like, this is an attempt to kickstart life into the J-horror genre after the Ring remake, and it was sort of like almost like the film was made to be remade, which obviously is what happened. So as soon as, you know, pretty much as soon as I had the videotape in my hand, there was news on the internet, oh, Sam Raimi has bought the remake rights to the Grudge.
Okay.
And I also remember, like, shortly afterwards, walking down through Ginza and seeing a poster outside one of the cinemas, a huge poster for One Missed Call with Takashi Miike, and it's like, oh God, it started again, hasn't it? Now everyone's bloody making
I'm a big advocate for One Missed Call. I think it's a really good film, and it's really entertaining and really fun, and it has, like, basically it goes from scene to scene, and each scene is really fun, and people die and fall down elevators. It's great.
I watched that recently.
I've only seen the remake. I've only seen the American One Missed Call at the cinema, no less. But I couldn't tell you much about it now.
I did go away after you both gave me the recommendations for what are the definitive J-horror movies, and pretty much watched all the ones you said. So we'll cover that on what we've been watching. I think I've mentioned it in a previous episode already, but yeah, I agree. One Missed Call is great. Dark Water as well. Wow,
Dark Water is better than Ring, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one that's not like as scary, but I think it's just the themes it deals with. There's a lot of weight to it, and I actually, out of all the remakes, I think the Dark Water remake actually works pretty well as well.
Oh yeah, I've not seen that one, but I was aware of that.
Ring remake is the best remake, I think.
Yeah, I think we mentioned this as well, didn't we? So the Ring remake was the first of all of these films that I saw. Obviously before I saw any Japanese ones as well, and the same for you, Sarah. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah. Fun fact: Hideo Nakata was asked to direct it, but he said no, and that's why Gore Verbinski did it. And then he came back for the second one. So Ring 2 is directed by Hideo Nakata.
Yeah, I'm not going to chuck a horse off a ferry. I'll just leave that bit out.
I think it's really good. It's obviously, you know, like I said to you, was traumatized by it when I was 10. So maybe I have a different imagining, and I mean, I've seen it since, obviously, but it's just obviously in there for me. So
Yeah.
maybe it's not as impactful for other people. I don't know.
I think so. I think I'm definitely with you there. One thing that always affected me was the little kid calls his mum by her first name all the time. I'm like, what's this little dickhead playing at? Don't do that.
Rachel.
Rachel. He's always going Rachel. I'm like, who's Rachel? Oh wait, it's you, Naomi Watts.
I don't know what that is.
Is
that like supposed to be just a sign of dysfunctional family or something?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not sure.
I guess so.
I mean, is it supposed to give you a clue that she's not really his mum? Because I think that is the point, but I don't think it necessarily comes over in the remake.
I don't even remember that detail, but here we go. I would like to rewatch it.
Any detail I took away is what a rude boy Ben is what I thought as soon as I saw him. Hope he gets slurped off by a ghost any minute now.
Right, now make a copy of this tape. I'll help you do it. That's not fair. You got to do it himself.
He'd have called me by my first name twice. But yeah, I'll watch this video. I'll just step out.
Yeah, I love how I feel like we're getting
checking the days off the calendar. 6 days, mate. Want to
know
call me
what?
mum yet? Right, all right. Maybe I'll be bothered.
Have either of you guys seen Scary Movie 3? Because I cannot really think about The Ring without thinking about Scary Movie 3.
Yes.
Is that the fight? Is that the fight scene?
That film. Sorry, what?
Is that the fight scene between?
They have a fight scene, but it's also got like the precocious little kid who calls her by her first name.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And the kid, and then he's like, he holds the kid up to the fan, and he gets flown out the window.
Oh Jesus! My God. Okay, so let's before we start talking about the film in detail, let's quickly do a little bit of horror news. The first bit is that Smile 2 is headed to theaters in Halloween 2024. I thought I'd bring this up because this has kind of got some J horror themes, I guess, with like the kind of curse or violence scenario.
Yeah, borderline plagiarism, maybe.
Borderline plagiarism. Yeah, I mean, did you both did you both see Smile?
Yeah.
Oh, you did. How do we feel about it, Andy? I think you liked it. I didn't so much.
No, how dare you, Ben? I didn't like it. I thought they used the. I thought they used.
Shit, sorry.
I thought they used the best shot of the movie in the trailer with the sister's head. I think it was which I then learned a few months later when we watched Terrified was stolen from that. And I've seen so many films, in recent memory where the ghost is actually a metaphor for trauma, done so much better as well.
Hereditary. I think it definitely takes some. There's this one scene. So basically, I think the film obviously very derivative of lots of other films, and that's why it's so successful, because it took all the good things from all these other films, like It Follows and Hereditary. There's a scene in Smile I remember. I mean, I've only seen it once, but I think that the woman is like in the kitchen at some point, and it's really dark, and just in the background you sort of see the shadow of the person, and that totally reminded me of that great bit in Hereditary where he sees his sister in the corner, and then her head falls off and rolls towards him. So,
there's loads of bits like that. I think there was a moment in Talk to Me as well, which is a bit like that. I think that's becoming it's
scary. That's why it works.
I guess it's for the general audience that hasn't watched the sort of films that comes to a horror film casually and then sort of doesn't realize where these sort of shots come from.
Amateurs. One of those things. It was close for me, and I think it was marketed phenomenally. I think it's marketing, with the people smiling in a crowd, ever so clever. But it deserved more when it came to the actual content.
Well, anyway, do we need Smile 2? There's a question.
That is a good question, and I think I know the answer to that. We don't need it.
The other thing is, I don't know if anybody remembered this film called Truth or Dare.
Oh yeah,
but that had those people smiling in it like that. So I feel like it took off that as well.
Yeah.
So even the basic premise was snicked off a different film.
Yeah.
Directorial technique known as copying.
18th of October 2024, Smile 2 will be out. How exciting for someone. Second piece of news, Are You Afraid of the Dark podcast series launches just in time for Halloween. Audible we've talked about a few of these fiction podcast.
We've said
series.
stay out of our yard, lads. No, we
Stay out,
haven't.
stay out of our yard. Obviously, nostalgic revisit of the 90s cult classic show, which was reimagined as a limited series, and now follows a new generation of Midnight Society members. Yeah, that could be good.
Watch Nickelodeon's attempt of rebooting as a limited series. It's got loads of people that have gone on to be in more. They've gone basically on from, this was like the junior division, and now they are just in horror movies. A couple of the kids from It are in it. It's not bad, It's not bad at all. But like it is what it is. It is a sort of YA, maybe slightly double YA towards the kids side of things, sort of horror stuff. But it does attempt genuinely to be spooky and threatening. It wasn't badly done at all. So I'd be interested in this.
So more Are You Afraid of the Dark? More Goosebumps coming out in time for Halloween. What a time to be a kid if we want to scare and shape into new horror fans. And the only other piece of news I was going to mention is that Saw X is now out, and I thought I'd bring this up because we're not going to cover we're not going to cover it on the podcast because we want to be completionists, and we've done Saw 1. And I don't really foresee a time when we're going to be able to do 8 episodes for more movies before Saw X. So...
I feel I need to rewatch some of them to know what's going on as well. I know that John Saw is young now because he's wearing that backwards baseball cap.
John Saw.
It's been radicalized.
This takes place between the first and the second movie, right?
I think so. And he's dead pissed off because someone's failed to cure him of cancer.
But
John.
He'll still look 20 years older, regardless. Yeah. They're not going to go.
He's got a backwards cap on, and he's going to say like 90s, sort of 90s slang.
I kind of thought I was going
to on purpose.
They did that
because he's dead, obviously. So to make him come back,
they've rewound until the point he was just poorly, and he's taken his early steps in revenge.
I checked out when they were doing that live operation on his brain. I think that was in the third one.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, I'll tell you what,
it
do
was
an operation on us, or
one.
I'll bear trap your head off."
That's exactly where I checked out as well. The third one.
I don't know what happened after that. I mean, I've watched some of them, but I just don't. I can't trace it with the plot. So.
No.
Is the third one the one where that guy drowns in like pig blancmange? There's like a big conveyor belt and it's like blending pigs.
I think so. The third one, what I remember is there's this guy whose all his limbs were twisted and then his head was twisted.
Yeah, twisted his head right off, didn't it? Because he
twisted it all around.
Hit and run a kid, didn't he? That was his punishment.
I checked out at number 3. As soon as the film started going, ha ha ha, I'm more intelligent than you, and this is actually the story when you thought it was this all along, I go, I'm not interested anymore. Sorry.
Every minute that John Saw was in hospital, ever he got that diagnosis, he was just recording little dictaphone tapes. You must have done it back to back because he's got so many.
Give it a rest, John Saw.
I think they forgot the basic premise that he was supposed to be torturing people who had supposedly done something wrong in their life and needed to learn to appreciate life.
We've discussed this
totally
before.
Went out the window.
I feel exactly the same. By number 3, it's like, you're a policeman who thinks you can save everybody. That's a really admirable quality, John. You should encourage that. You work like, you'd be like, can you imagine John Saw versus all of like every dad from like a 90s family movie? You work a bit hard and are not always there for your kid's karate thing, and you've not got him a Turbo Man before on its Christmas Eve. Now you must get a Turbo Man to survive. Just Arnie running around being chased by Sinbad.
Now there's a Turbo Man
with a bear trap on his head. Yeah, this Turbo Man is full of poison. Only by drinking all the... Yes. They do definitely lose that premise.
I think, was it the third one though, or was it later where they had this woman, I think, who had to put her hand in something that crushes her hand to save her colleagues whom she probably hates. There's 6 of them, and every time, they're getting shot, but she has to crush her hand to save them. But that was the game where you instantly first realize that those people in the game can't do anything to save themselves, so that it completely defeats the object of the plot of the film.
Yeah. And with your colleagues as well. God, see you later.
About forced fun, John. Like a team building exercise.
But then I think they explained it by that woman taking over from John, or that policeman, and so it's like they don't care. They just want to kill people.
Yeah, they're just bad blokes.
Yeah.
God damn it. I had a minor interest in it. Then I saw the trailer at cinemas and I went, nah, unfortunately, it's not for me. Sorry, Saul. I can't be bothered. But
I will watch it
if,
eventually.
it's out this week. And I've seen some reviews, people saying, standard reviews, it's the most extreme one ever. It's the goriest. The traps, you won't believe them. I mean, I don't know. But yeah,
I
that
believe
is it.
a lot.
That is it for
Nothing's going to
for
beat
news.
that guy who had to climb up the barbed wire to escape, and then he died on the barbed wire. That was the best trap.
There we go.
Oh, I like the big pit full of needles that
Oh yeah.
that was horrible.
Horrid.
I got one more bit of news for you, Ben.
Oh, thank you.
Just before we came up, tell you what, this is where we all met and what we were talking about earlier on. Fright Fest's only back for Halloween, isn't it? Just saw a little post them a couple of hours ago.
That is a good piece of news.
They're doing a Halloween weekend. 9 more screenings, I think, that have been unseen in the UK. I'm taking this up from a very quick read just as I was connecting to the meeting.
9 more screenings over 2 nights, I believe, isn't it? Rather than 2 days, rather than that. I know that Kevin Martin, former guest of the show, his movie, is it The Last Video Shop, is being screened, which is super exciting. I think we're gonna have to get him on the show to talk about that.
I just ordered a copy of that on Blu-ray. Thought, let's go physical as it's the theme.
Let's get physical. Exciting stuff. Looking forward to that. So, I mean, I guess we can move on to what we've been watching. Obviously, I've got some J-horror to briefly discuss. Anything else anyone's seen recently, horror or horror adjacent, that they'd like to cover in the last 7 days?
I watched Knock at the Cabin last night.
Oh,
M. Night Shyamalan.
What did you reckon?
It was okay.
You an M. Night fan, traditionally?
Yeah, I always get excited about his films, and then they are pretty hit and miss, but I do like him in general, and the fact that he tries to do twists, and I think The Visit is one of the best found footage films ever.
I love The Visit. The Visit's so
Love
good.
it. Yeah, Sixth
See,
Sense.
he's not a rude boy. I like that precocious child. I love the bit where he's throwing that ball in the air and turning around because he thinks that's how children play.
Bro, that bit with the diaper is the most gross thing I've probably ever seen in my life. So
Ben hates The Visit, though. I have it on good authority.
I don't remember it very well, though. I remember hating The Visit and like saying I hate The Visit, but I don't even remember why.
It's because you naturally dislike old people. That's what I've heard.
That's true.
maybe you didn't believe that I don't want to give away the twist. Okay, I'll take it back.
I think it was that. And I like M. Night Shyamalan for the most part, most of his films. I thought Knock at the Cabin was all right. I do like Batista when he turns up. I feel
like
stuff.
Knock at the Cabin did not have a twist, though. Did it have a twist?
No, I mean it was based on a book. Twist? It was based on a book, wasn't it? So it's like,
so no twist.
So no twist. No, I mean the twist is no.
They've just put an extra scene in where after everything had run out, Batista could have just stuck his head around that cafe door and give him a little wink.
Yeah. That's kind of what they did in Old, isn't it? Like, what is the twist here? And then they take it back and he's like in a computer room or something, or whatever it was.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Both of those films, I know Knock at the Cabin is based on a book and Old was based on a comic.
Comics and Castles. Yeah.
Comic. That's right, yeah. I just feel like both of those stories are like, oh, something interesting is leading all this to something, and then the thing is, well, we don't really know what it is. Felt a bit like Lost, when it just goes, and that's the end, and here's the reason.
It was a smoke monster, right?
There was a bloody polar bear all along. Yeah, anything else? Anything else anybody has seen?
I should give a shout out to, talking about J-horror adjacent, the Third Window Films just put out Door, which is 1988 home invasion movie. And I've argued this quite a few times that the J-horror, I mean, basically, if you look at Japanese horror in the round, everything was used to be period horror, like Kwaidan and sort of Onibaba and these sort of period sort of ghost tales. And you didn't really get your first contemporary set horrors modelled on the sort of Western models till Door being the first and Evil Dead Trap being another one. 1988. Door is just a peculiar film about like a housewife who gets this sort of door-to-door salesman who just won't leave her alone, and eventually he forces her way in. Luckily, her husband seems to have left a chainsaw on the balcony, so she managed to fend him off. But
I'm just heading out, but that chainsaw's ready to go. Just be careful.
And I look at it the way that it was made, sort of at that time, same time as Jaganre Psychic Vision, which we mentioned in the documentary, which we say is the seeds of J-horror. And it all sort of represents a completely different path Japanese horror took, represented by trap films and I don't know, Japanese horror that's not J-horror.
Yeah, okay. Well, it says here the first Japanese giallo slasher film, Door.
Yeah, it's got this amazing shot in it at one point. This camera panning all around this sort of apartment block where she lives. That sort of almost outdoes Argento's Tenebrae, I think.
That sounds really good.
That's a film we covered fairly recently.
Definitely.
Get on the list. Anything else, Andy? Have you seen anything this week?
Seen a couple, Ben. Let me throw you a little list here. So I finished off my run through one of the most diverse series in horror. I finished my run of Prom Night with Prom Night 4. Let me recap it for you. Prom Night 1, Jamie Lee Curtis is in it. It's about a boy what got bullied. Prom Night 2 and 3, Carrie's a ghost, like Carrie from Stephen King, a bit like her, but she's a ghost and she fucks now. And she's number 2. That's maybe the best one. Prom Night 4, there's a priest and he is absolutely berserk. He thinks everyone's doing sins and he's got this holy water that will spontaneously combust you. And he's in a coma for 30 years, but then he wakes up and he looks exactly the same. He's got a beard, but that gets shaved off and he's like just a young, live, murderous priest with an intense stare. That's him.
Did you say 3? Did you say 3?
2 and 3 are both Carrie's a ghost, and she's
okay.
Yeah. 2 and 3 what a back to back, but number 2 especially, it is a wild ride.
Who's Mary Lou?
That is Mary Lou. Mary Lou is the Carrie, but she's a ghost. Yeah, have you seen Prom Night 2?
No, I just know one of them's called Hello Mary Lou.
Hello Mary Lou, Prom Night 2, or that phrase but the other way around. Well worth a watch. An insane time.
Are there only 4?
She's unashamedly bad as well. It's not like, oh, Mary Lou's a bit misunderstood. No, she's a bastard from the very beginning. It's like if the bully girl became the victim that became a psychic ghost.
Oh.
So that's Prom Night. I watched TerrorVision, 1986's TerrorVision. That's insane. It's structured like it's almost structured like it's a kid's movie, except the granddad gets eaten immediately by an alien that comes out of the telly. The mom and dad are obviously swingers. It's insane. A lot of fun though. A couple of weeks ago when Aaron was on with us and recommended a couple of short films, I've watched one of those. This is available on YouTube. If I'm going to echo his recommendation. Have you seen a short film called Portrait of God?
No.
It's about 7 minutes of your time. It's on YouTube. Go ahead and watch it. It's such a deeply unsettling movie. And it's got some great, you know what, we'll conjure it a little bit. It's got some good effects that we're used to seeing. Maybe we'll talk about in some of these J-horror set pieces where it's not necessarily a jump scare, that you see something unfold in front of you in quite a slow pace on occasions, and you wish you could look away or it would stop. There's a particular bit involving like a projector screen, but just to give you a set with a premise, it's a woman who's preparing like a presentation, like an academic presentation, saying, "I'm going to show you a picture of a photograph of a picture called Portrait of God. People say that they see things in this picture. I don't see anything, and perhaps you can't too." And she's clearly religious. She has like a crucifix on, and then she's kind of wondering why she sees nothing in this picture of God, and then she keeps just staring at it and looking for this figure to appear. I'll say no more. Watch it. It's 7 minutes long.
That sounds like a good premise.
Yeah.
Like a magic eye puzzle.
Like a magic eye puzzle, which I could never do.
And then
that is a good premise. The idea that 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 you individually might see something that nobody else sees. That's quite scary.
It's really, really good. And then the way that it unfolds from there is a lot of fun for such a short movie. I need to watch the other one you recommended, the 12 Steps, yet, but I watched all of the originals. Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, all 6 of those that are also on YouTube. It became a series. It's so surreal. It's comedic, but also dives into like the horror elements of these puppets just in this really nightmarish world and singing songs about being imaginative all the time and things like that. It's very just very, very strange. I saw one more from Fright Fest. I caught up on the screener of Haunted Ulster Live, kind of like an Irish production team's like homage to Ghostwatch. A lot that's in there, but there's some. I quite enjoyed that. I think I might write up some more thoughts on that one, but I only caught that one today, so need to let my thoughts rest on that. I guess the last thing for me to mention, I think, Ben, I know you've seen this as well. No One Will Save You. I think it's getting a bit of buzz on Disney Plus or Hulu if you're in the US right now. Just got a recent release.
Yeah.
I will always pay out for a film that takes a big swing, and I think the choices they made with, thematically, it's not a spoiler. It's not a silent film, but apart from like a little incidental, like people talking to themselves, little grunts and moans and so on, there is no dialogue in the entire film. I think it's a really smart way to make a instantly accessible movie. It's a big swing. It's about a woman who has basically a home invasion from horrible aliens. And I love that the aliens were really sort of diverse in their design. It's a big swing, and for me, it paid off. Did you enjoy it? Have the rest of you seen this yet?
Not seen it, no.
I enjoyed it. It's directed by Brian Duffield, who directed Spontaneous, which had a lot of good reviews as well. I didn't know anything about this pretty much. I just went in completely blind. I kind of saw people saying it was good, went and checked it out, and yeah, I loved it. With Caitlin Dever from Booksmart, I thought she's great, and it's just like a movie, a subtle, small scale, like an intimate story, but it is super, super tense, and yeah, I thought it was great.
I will definitely check it out if you recommend it. I like to think with horror, especially these days, I tend to watch stuff that is, that you at least hear one person say that's actually quite good, because it's just lots of stuff. So,
there's so much infinite content, isn't there? But yeah, I mean, if you take 2 things away from this, Sarah, I'd say worth giving No One Will Save You a shout, but otherwise, definitely Prom Night 2. Hello, Mary Lou. She's real bad.
No. I worked on the Blu-ray release of Prom Night and somehow avoided doing the second one. So. Oh
wow! Okay. Oh my god.
It's a different film. The same series in name only, a different time.
Yeah, and I guess the only things I've seen apart from No One Will Save You, I mentioned a couple of these on previous episodes, but I'll just mention them again briefly. I watched Dark Water, One Missed Call. I watched the American version of The Grudge. I watched Psychic Vision, and I watched Uzumaki as well. So based on your recommendations at Fright Fest, a couple I'd seen before. I'd already seen One Missed Call. I don't think you recommended that one though. I hadn't seen Dark Water, and then Psychic Vision and Uzumaki were brand new experiences for me. Haunted Spirals, that is very effective. I mean, I'm familiar with the work of Junji Ito anyway, so I think it kind of like already struck a chord with me. But yeah, some really great visuals.
Did you particularly love the boys who turned into snails? I think they were good.
The fact that they're like on the news as well. Like, there's some snails on the wall. These boys have turned into snails. Look at that. And an horrible greased up snail boy covered in Vaseline.
Imagine being that reporter that's like, oh God, this person who started the job the same day as me is covering like the hard-hitting political stories. The Prime Minister's been disgraced. What am I doing? Boys have turned into snails.
Far more interested, way more interested. I love that the film like ended on these kind of like still shots of like people who it's like these people have also been spiraled, and I just thought they were really good because it was obviously like they didn't have the money to like make the effects for how this looked, so they just had these still shots of people who've been spiraled.
I heard they were going to make it into a series, but then somehow it just never happened. So I think they maybe cancelled the sequel like halfway through making the first one, which has sort of ended on a an elliptical spiral, which sort of works within the film's own logic anyway.
Yeah, most definitely.
It's just so ridiculous that they would write boys turning into snails. I mean,
Death by crawling
where's
into
that
a
come
tumble
from?
dryer as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He gets in the tumble dryer and dies. And there's like a millipede that goes in someone's ear. Yeah.
It's one of the greats, isn't it?
There's some of the 3 worst ways to go: millipede in the ear, tumble dryer, snailed.
That's a top 3 for me. And Psychic Vision, which was like what 85% like documentary about some singer, and then 15% nuts. I thought that was great. I love this kind of soundtrack as well. I don't know why. It was just a bit odd, quirky, upbeat.
That's a good ratio for, like, I find for a lot of Japanese horror though. Like if you watch Audition, like 2/3 slightly kooky, awkward sort of romance that's getting off the ground, than the worst murders for like the last 20 minutes.
I saw Audition in when it got its world premiere in Rotterdam Film Festival when I was living in Holland. I saw this advert in the newspaper and just saw her holding the wire, and I thought it was like a film about a cello player because I couldn't read the Dutch description. And I thought, oh, a romantic melodrama about this woman who plays the cello. So I went in there and watched this sort of really sweet film turn rapidly very sour. And it really was the case. I think it was Rotterdam Film Festival that everyone just stampeded out the auditorium as soon as she was doing the kiri 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 acts, and there was only literally about 20 of us left at the end of it.
I just love that you wanted to see a film about a girl.
I would watch anything Japanese at that time, you know, but it did make me. I laughed out loud like a Drayman.
You were sitting in there for that hour going,
head in the hands, going, "What the hell am I? What is it?"
Just imagine you sitting there going, "Oh, you know, he's met her in an unethical way, but you know, maybe you'll find a way that he's really going to fall for her. This is going to be great." And the sun will come round. Next thing you know, she's killed his poor dog. I'm glad she got kicked down the stairs.
Keeps that guy with his hands sawn off in a sack in a.
Oh yeah, guy in a sack. Didn't she feed him her vomit as well?
Yeah. I think that's when I fell in love with Japanese film, that period, because I mean these were films that were just, you know, doing stuff that Western films just wouldn't do.
Yeah, weird stuff. I like weird stuff. Some films you watch and they're just weird, and you're like, this is great. I wish we'd get someone a bit out there who thinks about snail boys and stuff. You know?
Yeah, I reckon chuck snail boys in every film from now on.
Feeding a bagged man you're sick, that's inconvenient for both of you. Because yes, he is eating sick, punishment for him, but you have to throw up every day. Don't enjoy that.
Some people are good at it.
There must be some days where it'll be like, just give him some food, will I?
I'll just give him a bit of food. I think out of all of those, though, Dark Water was the one for me. I thought it was like honestly felt like a masterclass in supernatural storytelling, because it's not even particularly scary. I wouldn't say it's not like jumpy. There is obviously one particular shot which is very scary, but I thought it was just really creepy and mysterious, and I love the constant rain, even though J-horror does seem to have a lot of rain and umbrellas.
It's always very wet, isn't it? Well, again, like I was saying, in Japan, you know, in the summer, you know, the humidity and often the typhoon season. So stay inside. Watch
I feel like saying, because we're on the Grudge episode, have you seen the American Grudge 2?
I have not.
You have?
Oh, what? Like the 2020 remake or something?
No,
later. The American Grudge 2.
The Grudge 2 that came out like 2006.
I'm sure I would have seen it.
I mean, let me Google it.
Grab the one that Sarah Michelle Gellar isn't in, I guess.
She's in it.
She's in it for about 5 minutes.
There was another remake.
No, she dies in it. I mean, sorry, ruined spoiler.
I don't remember.
But she is in it, and it's set in Japan.
Yeah.
Was the first one set in Japan? I forget.
Yeah, but they go to the States because the curse follows them across.
Curse gets on the plane.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
In the second one, I will say I think that American Grudge 2 is actually way better than the first one. It's got different stories. It's got these schoolgirls from Potentially that's from the original Grudge too. The schoolgirls that go into the house and they have their own storyline about their hauntings, and it has other storylines and stuff. I think it's actually quite scary.
Oh.
I have to pick those up. I've not watched either American one, you know.
I thought you meant like the newer American one. There was a Grudge 3, an American Grudge 3.
Yeah,
well.
I mean, I haven't seen that.
No.
Sarah Michelle Gellar's not in it, so why would you watch it?
No, Sarah Michelle Gellar does a great weird run in the original American Grudge. Just like down the motorway, it looks like. I don't know what she's doing. Get out of there.
What?
Yeah, it was weird. But yeah, is it the 2018 version of the Grudge? Which again,
No.
Sam Raimi was involved. Oh no, but what I was going to say, also that version.
2018 version of the Grudge.
There was a later one. Yeah, they
There's
did
lots
another
of versions.
Yeah,
I
they
know
did like
that
another.
Ogier remade them all expanded the universe out in the 2010s in Japan.
Oh, 2020 it was this one. Again, Sam Raimi is like a producer. He just bloody loves it, doesn't he? He loves the Grudge.
And back in Japan, there's a Versus film as well, right? There's
Yep.
Sadako versus Kayako.
Sadako versus Kayako, yeah.
Is it like any Versus movie where they punch for a bit but then are mates? In the end, they team up to fight Mechagodzilla.
No, it's Koji Shiraishi. I want to say it's quite terrible.
Oh.
I think the best thing about it was that they did this promo for it at the Super Bowl, where they got these actresses out on the pitch in halftime, and they just like went and fought each other. One was Kayako, one was Sadako.
Oh, so like a boxing way, and they're actually going to get them to like
get into
a scuffle beforehand.
They would have had to brief the security on that. There's going to be 2 dead Japanese girls having a fight. Don't intervene. All right.
I think if you should watch that on YouTube over watching the film Sadako versus Kayako. Oh, I shouldn't really say that really, but it is. It's fun. It's not scary though. It depends what you want.
No, it's a pastiche, isn't it? It's a sort of parody of the a Japanese scary movie.
The other Grudge was 2020, which I'm just checking. The weekend it was released, I went to see it. I was the only person in the cinema. Like it just bombed.
Yeah, I think there's a time when you sort of target this sort of nostalgia and then realise that your age demographic is totally wrong.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those.
I might have watched it, but I can't remember.
Having seen 6 Ju-on films plus the short films that came before, I don't really feel the urge to watch anymore.
So I can't remember if I asked you guys this already. Ju-on Origins, that Netflix series as well? Like
that was actually quite interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
That was, I mean, admittedly, I only got 2 episodes in, but I mean, they're all self-contained stories, and they were written by Hiroshi Takahashi, the writer behind the original Ring. So who always brings an interesting spin of Wrote Dark Water, of course, as well. So I think they were more interesting than I would say more interesting. I think they had more to them than the Ju-on films. I mean, they weren't scary in the way the Ju-on films, but they actually were quite meaty in a plot sense.
And again, just weren't chronological either, which obviously they've taken from Ju-on the Grudge as well.
Yeah. Takashi Shimizu had nothing to do with them at all. So, I mean, I think it's funny that this whole project he sort of fostered, from film school, making these short films with Toshio and Kayako in them, and then brought to the video market, and then to the theatrical market in Japan, and then the Hollywood remakes. After the Hollywood remakes, everything got taken out completely out of his hands. So it's just like he didn't write any of them. He didn't have any control over how the franchise went.
So and I feel like with any sort of spanning franchise, comes back to this again. Regular listeners all know I've banged on this drum before. But like any long-running series, the ones that for me are always the most successful are the ones where the people who originally made it keep some kind of hand in it, which is why, for better or worse, you can be about to be 3 seasons and 8 Child's Play movies in, and he hasn't ended up in space yet, and you can still have some kind of link them together because that original creator has kept a hand in this and has been able to guide how it has developed and make sure they don't lose all of the threads. But when it gets spread out
Like
and they
Final
lose control.
Destination.
Final Destination. Yeah, they do loop together, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're an example where the original creators stayed in touch.
Stayed tied in
all
as
of
well.
The whole series, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, that's what I like to see, and it's a shame when these things get taken out of the hands. But more importantly, on this point, when you're mentioning the Grudge origins as well, for this series, you having described it and understanding that it's out of sequence as well, and they're still ghost stories. Very deeply disappointed it isn't just about Toshko when he just had like his lovely pale sky blue shirt on, just being a fun little boy, hanging out and having fun with his cat, like a little cartoon opening series, just him and his cat. And then maybe in the last episode, he goes, oh, fucking get you for this. And then the series begins, the Grudge Origins credits.
And then he eats the cat, and that's why he meows.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get on to the main event, Ju-on the Grudge, which is a 2002 Japanese supernatural horror film written and directed by Takashi Shimizu. Is that how you say his surname?
Yeah.
Third installment in the Ju-on series, and the first to be released theatrically. Wow, how exciting. So, a mysterious and vengeful spirit marks and pursues anybody who dares enter the house which it resides. No cold callers, please. It's got 6.7 on IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, 80% critics score, 62% audience score, 3.4 on Letterboxd, and some choice reviews. Grant McClana says, my favorite kind of horror movie, low-key, melancholic, suffused with creeping dread and directed with subtle skill. 4 stars. Mikey Flick says, that face staring up from inside the duvet, still a classic. 3 stars. And a circus rat, that's a great username, says, shameful behavior for a ghost to abandon the ancient laws about being safe under the covers. 3 stars. That's true. That's a good point. And Gory B Movie says, the most horrifying film in the Ju-on Grudge franchise. The use of sound and long takes are chilling. Unlike the remake, this film has texture and emotion. 4 stars. There we go. Nice cross section there. And I agree completely with a circus rat. Once you're under the covers, that's it. I think I watched that film, and then I watched another film where someone hid under the covers. I think it might have been No One Will Save
Hell
You.
House LLC.
Well, just get under the covers. Nothing can touch me there.
Yeah, I think my original review for Midnight Eye back in 2002 is still online, but I said if you don't mind watching a film with characters so stupid they'll hide from a ghost under the covers, then this would be it.
Wow, that's a bit harsh. I think that did quite well in that scene, because the whole idea, what's the scariest thing is being infiltrated in the places where you think that you won't be infiltrated.
No, I know. I
by
guess
the ghost,
got out
and
of
that's
bed
like
and ran
under
down the
covers.
corridor.
I think
It's like
getting under
in
a duvet.
Japan they have this thing called Hanako of the toilet, and it's like a ghost that comes out the toilet. So you think you're safe in the toilet? You're not.
Is that the one that asks if you want red or blue paper and then drowns you or stabs you to death accordingly?
I don't know.
You want red or blue?
I
I haven't watched it.
What I've learned about Japanese ghosts is, I think your best defense, if you encounter a Japanese ghost, is to be non-committal. Where there's the scissors lady who meets you and says, oh, do you think I'm pretty? And if you say yes, she goes, bloody liar, I'm all scissored up, and then she stabs you up. And if you say no, she goes, fucking rude, stabs you up anyway. So the best defense, as the word goes, is to go, so sorry, don't have time, have your headphones in, say, no, sorry, can't answer your question right now. And that's how you escape her.
Treat them
Look,
like there's some.
Yeah, treat like those charity muggers that want to sign you up to slap off your salary every month. If you treat them like those,
I'm on a really important phone call.
I do wonder, like in The Ring, where she's coming out the TV towards you, like if you just sort of shut your eyes and just sit there and just like be chill, would you die?
If you tried really hard not to be scared of her, rationalized it and said,
yeah, you would, because in the book that she basically influences your genetic structure, isn't it? So they all die of pulmonary infarctions through the magnetic waves that come from the videotape.
I thought that they were dying of fright.
No,
I thought they were dying of fright.
There is a proper scientific rationale behind it. So
I did read the manga,
Magneto,
the first volume of the manga, just a couple of weeks ago, which is great. I think it was really good. I've not read the book though. I would like to read the book.
You should
Yes,
actually.
you went with
It's
the-
really easy to read, and it's actually really interesting, and it's gripping. And I liked it, and I read it all in like 2 days. It was good.
Oh right.
Well,
okay.
and the other thing is that if you watch before Hideo Nakata's Ring, that there was a TV series that actually you can see on YouTube now, a TV special, an hour and a half long straight to TV movie,
Oh wow.
which is a very much more literal version of the book. So it's sort of done like a pseudo science fiction film. So
That is a really
what
interesting angle.
Nakata
That
brought
was
to it
science
was,
fiction.
yeah, I mean, basically it is a sort of weird new age science fiction book, and Nakata turned it into a classic ghost story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because in the book, they spend a long time. They're like detectives trying to figure out
Yeah.
why these people who are completely unconnected have just wound up dead, seemingly had a heart attack for no reason, and they figure it's some sort of virus for a while, and then I don't know, it develops.
In the manga version, it's almost like she's presented as like a superhuman in a way, rather than a ghost or like anything too supernatural in that way. Well,
I
guess
wonder
it's
when the
just-
manga must have come out after the film, so it's like a sort of third level. Of
It's probably like an amalgamation of both. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's like Battle Royale. If you read the original book for Battle Royale, it's like 600 pages and a lot of detail on the characters, and they had to chop it down for the film, and then the manga came out.
It's like a
after.
15-volume manga of that as well, isn't there? For once, I have done all versions. I've read all of them.
And I think was to give the backstories for all of the characters.
Yeah, there's like chapters for almost every. There isn't. Whereas in the film, there'll be people who just disappear, and you know so little about them.
Yeah, they get 30 seconds of screen time.
Yeah, on the I mean, the book, as you say, it's an epic, probably one of the heaviest books I've ever got all the way through. But
oh, you've not read Moby Dick?
no, I got as far as I got so far as confirming that I should call him Ishmael, and then I dropped off that one. But yeah, but then the manga is like, I remember it being a real struggle to get in the UK. Like, it wasn't just reliably being released; it was going to Forbidden Planet every month for a year until the next one's in.
But I think that was almost like a bit of fan fiction anyway, that it had spiraled off. Again, the guy who created the novel didn't realize when the film came out that he was creating this whole sort of run of stuff like Battle Royale 2, which just goes off in completely its own direction. So by which stage, he couldn't do, and all of his basic premise was taken to various other directions where he didn't want it necessarily to go, like in the manga.
Yeah, lost your hands on it. Oh well. Well, I think we're perilously close to being able to justify Battle Royale as a horror film and covering it. I think, Ben.
Asia Extreme, anyway. I think.
There we go. Who for the J Horror Virus? Who involved with the Grudge was in that? It was
Kayako Shimizu.
That's right. Yeah.
Kayako herself.
Yeah, sorry, her name is actually Takako Fuji. Yeah, I always call her Kayako though, because obvious reasons.
Well, you know her from
to be only as Kayako. And in the documentary, she even does a bit of Kayako, doesn't she?
No, that's Sadako.
Sadako does Sadako.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sorry. Don't want to. They're rivals. We know they had a fight at the Super Bowl. Don't want them to get mixed up.
We should have got them on the same day to like meet each other. I wonder if they ever have. They probably have, but
they hate each other.
You never know.
Will not be seen dead
enemies.
together. Absolute 100% enemies.
Just get Josh Gad to get them together on a Zoom call, something like that. Try and put the beef behind him.
I don't think we asked them. We should have asked them, like, what do you think of Kayako? What do you think of Sadako? And just see if their opinion. I don't think we even asked them that.
Yeah, that would have been good.
That would have been good.
Hearing them like speak, and they were just so, they're just both such like gentle characters and so like enthusiastic. Imagine if they just completely turned dog shit, the worst. They're really gone off on the other one.
Rip me off. So in terms of the plot summary for this film, as we go through it, the events are listed here in chronological order, so I guess that probably makes a bit more sense to talk about.
Well, what film are we talking about now?
Ju-on,
the Grudge. Now, yeah.
Subject of the podcast.
No point doing a synopsis. Ju-on is.
I think that's where we can begin, because a lot of the things that happen in this, it does feel like almost a series of set pieces, right? You have a scare that you wanted to deliver, or a particular shot that you wanted to deliver, And then what the film does is roughly, not necessarily in order, cut between those. My first note on this is, of course, we begin with the worst real life horror of all, which is the circumstances of people who has to do domestic assistance work. Because she's in there, she's only a trainee. It's like, all right, can you go and do this job for us, please? Poor old Rika. Get in there. Again, very rude of the ghost to curse a person who goes there for work.
Oh yeah.
Imagine if it was in
That's
the
not
UK,
fair.
the bloody milkman's copping it. Everyone.
I have to say, not to keep bringing this back to Scary Movie, but actually, when you were saying that, I'm thinking of that bit in Scary Movie 4 where they cover the Grudge, and Anna Faris
Right? Yeah.
goes and like is not paying attention and starts washing her with her own piss. They should have had that in the real movie because that was quite funny.
Oh, I mean, that character who we're taking on there, that poor old lady, bloody death would be a blessing. All she has to do is just get sitting wound up, and then she's mentioned so many. She's there sort of mumbling away that she's told people so many times about this, and this poor woman who's, Rika, who's there just like the fill-in domestic help going, hourly wages aren't so good for this job, I'm fucked.
I mean, so yeah, if you're looking at several years prior to the main plot, if we're looking at it in chronological order, Takeo Saki, he just finds out that Kayako is having some sort of an affair, right? Discovers she's in love with another man, and she's written it all down somewhere, isn't she? Is that what she's done?
The thing is, the events of the film are actually sort of preluded to in the Curse films, the two straight to video.
Okay.
So you do get the backstory comes, yeah.
So we've got a little bit of build up, but if you haven't had the benefit, as I certainly hadn't at the time, so your first bit is not as we presented. Again, if we go through this chronologically, but this isn't how we get it presented, which it's not. In terms of you as a watching experience, at what point did you gather that it wasn't chronological? I know thinking of your first watch of this might be a difficult time now. I was about halfway through, I reckon.
I thought what they were trying to do was something similar to La Ronde, where basically someone would die and then the person that survived would go off and carry the ghost to the next person. So it was sort of like a pass the parcel sort of thing that moved round back to the sort of house eventually.
Yeah. I was a little bit confused.
I was like, hang on, I thought you was dead. It's like watching a soap. I was like,
yeah.
And then that poor policeman that just he's tried to quit the force, and then before you know it, fella's that we're trying to solve a murder. Well, off the clock.
He was 1 week away from retirement. And I've been
talking to a kid here about street paintings. Thank you.
So obviously going back to the prior to the main plot thing, Takeo murders Kayako after discovering she's in love with another man. Also kills the family cat, bit harsh. And his son, Toshio.
No witnesses.
Not as harsh. Did you say why? Why is that?
Why did he kill
what did you do with the cat? Grab the cat. Yeah, why?
I reckon Toshio's cat, isn't it? Basically.
Okay.
Can't be bothered to look after it.
Listen, if I'm killing Toshio, I'm killing you as well, cat. I've had a guts full of you.
He thinks they come as a pair.
How does he kill the cat? You can only see him just grab it.
Gives them all
they
the
must have both gone in the bath together.
Yeah, that's right. Get in the bath.
This fella who's gone mad because his wife's in an affair, playing like whack-a-mole, trying to keep as many people's heads under the water as he can.
Challenging.
Toshio keeps going every time anyone goes in the bathroom.
Shoving them back under
the bath. You'd be well annoyed though if you're like, I'm gonna do a couple of murders, but they will come back as vengeful ghosts. Oh bloody hell, that's even more annoying, I would say.
Yes.
You should have surprised them so they didn't have time to form grudges.
Make them happy and then kill them.
Oh God. So yeah,
bonk them on the head in their sleep or something like that. That'll sort it out. Say night, love you.
Good advice. Good advice.
She wouldn't know.
So the murders create a curse that revives the family as vengeful ghosts. With Kayako's ghost murdering Takeo. Does that happen like pretty much straight away? Comes back? And then whoever enters the house essentially is eventually consumed by the curse, which
Apart from the old lady, who's fine.
spreads to the place they die. Yeah, she's not interested. She's fine. She's which spreads to the place they die and in turn consumes anyone who comes in. This is horrible. I'd be like, God, this is like a pandemic.
Do you think there's an upper limit to her?
Fun
Would she eventually be spread really thin?
Fun fact.
Fun fact: the house has actually been demolished, so clearly there really was a ghost there.
Oh,
Yeah, we wanted to get it in the documentary, obviously, but it's gone.
Why'd they demolish the house? Just because they thought
It's
it had
Tesco
evil
Express now.
Had
They
evil in
like
the
changing
walls.
things in Japan. They demolish houses a lot.
Get the house down. It wasn't because they thought there was pure evil in the bricks.
It probably was that, though. I mean, I bet nobody bought it.
No, you wouldn't, would you? Like
No.
Fred West's house. They went, get that down straight away.
There'll be grudges in there. Get them off.
Oh, God.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
don't
They
want a house
believe
full of
in.
grudges.
They're more spiritual, aren't they? In Japan, they might
Mm.
believe it. You never know.
Yeah.
Come
Yeah,
up on
that's
your
true.
EPC rating when you get it done. Hang on, this house is rated a D for ghosts. There's no improvement methods you can put in. Just tear it down, start over.
Yeah,
Has this house been built on an Indian burial ground? It always happens in America.
that's only in America
Yeah, that's what I said.
where they had Indians.
I said that. I said that. But yeah. So the latest owners of the house are the Tokunaga family, consisting of salaryman. What's that mean? Just a man with a salary,
Just a
like a
guy with a
businessman.
job, like a bit.
A man with a suit.
A man with a suit and
Basic job.
Someone whose job is emails.
Yeah, wage slave.
briefcase man. Katsuya, his wife Kazumi, and their ill mother Sachi. She's ill. What's wrong with her? Old.
Yeah, she's got
She's
general.
been haunted for the last 10 years.
Yeah, just
I'd have
general old
I'd have a
malaise.
guts
Just
full. Can you just put me out of my misery? Because I've been haunted for the last 10 years. I'm sick of it. I
can't
can't
have a
do any.
good night's sleep without waking up without this pale ass woman standing
And
over me in bed.
staring at my face.
Oh,
That'd
it's
put you
horrible.
off so much. Trying to go to sleep, someone's leaning over you.
Like in your picture. Yeah.
She'd be like, "You asleep?" I was.
Are you asleep yet? Are you asleep? Yeah.
Can I get you anything? Glass of water? Go on. To read to you for a bit. No.
Leave me alone. Someone sat on the end of the bed as well. That's horrible. You better properly put your legs out, sort of all hunched over.
Just kick him off. Like,
Get out of it, Toshio, for God's sake. Put some bloody clothes on.
You've got some. I've seen you in them. Lovely little pale blue polo neck.
Was he killed in his little polo neck?
No, they had to get some ghost clothes from Ghost M&S.
Sat there in his little pants. For God's sake.
Bath in pants. Yeah. He's really not thought about this when he's drowned them.
I mean,
I don't
no.
really understand the concept of Kayako, really, because she was murdered, and why is she leaning over people while they're sleeping? I mean, how is that helping her? I don't really know why she would do that logically.
Yeah, I think that is one thing that I was kind of confused by, because at least with in the ring, and you kind of understand why she's doing what she's doing, and
she went down a well that looked like a ring.
Went down a well and need to find a bloody body. Whereas this one, it feels like Kayako's just knocking about, causing a havoc.
She's lashing out, isn't she? She's died in a foul temper.
She loves crawling down the stairs. I think I've seen her do it about 5 times.
Yeah.
On
Have
her
you ever tried
all fours. Have you ever
ever
tried to do that?
I was going to say that. Have you ever tried to do that? It's pretty hard.
I was never brave enough to go
It's
down.
not
I used to do
good.
it up. You used to like run upstairs and feel like you're the fastest thing in the world, using your arms and legs to go up the stairs.
You start going down and your legs start like trying to follow. They start trying to bend over that way. So you're
If she was going up the stairs, it wouldn't be scary.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be
just walking
fun.
up the stairs.
You walk in the house and she's just going up the stairs.
I still do that now. The little run up the stairs.
I'll run up the stairs or try and do it without using your legs, just to work out, would I be able to cope if I lost use of my legs?
Just crawl up like a dead weight.
Yeah. Good
You still do
exercise,
the-
isn't it?
You still do the thing when
Cross-training.
you still do the thing when you turn the light off downstairs and you quickly run upstairs so the evils don't get you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might be a skeleton looking out the window trying to get you.
Yeah, I still do that.
You know, when I first saw The Ring, I had this horrible nightmare where I was at the top of the stairs and the girl was coming up the stairs towards me, but there was a button and I pressed the button and it made her go down the stairs. But then suddenly I was at the bottom of the stairs and it was just a vicious cycle.
Yeah, you dreamt that you had, like, your stairs were like the gladiator's travelator. She's running up and you... Oh no!
Sadako, you will go on my first whistle.
And many nightmares about.
What did that button represent? If you pressed it, but then you ended up at the bottom of the stairs, what did that button represent in your dream? Interesting.
That she's always coming for me. I don't know, something like that.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah. So what happens? The family are pretty consumed by the curse fairly quickly. The whole film is essentially a series of set pieces where we're introduced to a character, and Kayako takes out her rage on them for one reason or another, within the house or beyond the house, because the haunting is kind of related to a person who's been in the house rather than just the house, isn't it? That's right.
They have some element of possession powers as well, right? Because this family, so Kazuya, the father, he comes home and everything's gone awry. His mother's been there, but he comes home to find his wife his wife has been killed because she goes for... Now let me think what happens to the wife. So she sees Toshiko in the house, Toshio, she see, like, there's some clattering about in the house. He's knocking things over while she's going for a nap. She goes upstairs to have a lie down, and then he pops, and then he gets her. So then the husband comes up, and she is not dead, but kind of catatonic. She's like in a catatonic state, and then Toshio comes up from the side of the bed. He like rises up like a genie from the side of the bed, does the cat noise, and then the husband, good facial acting here, I'll give this credit. He sort of darkens. And looks very serious. And then Hitomi, the younger sister, comes around to cook dinner, and he kind of pies her off out the door. He's like, yeah, you've got to go, actually. You can't hang about. And then he does mutter, she's got another bloke, actually. It definitely isn't my son. And you would worry if you would wonder that he was your son. He doesn't look anything like you. As a pale little ghost boy, whereas you are a Japanese salaryman. And then does he... remind me of this. Is it under the influence of the ghost? Does he kill his wife, or do we just find them both dead in the attic later?
Yeah, find them both dead. You don't see him kill her, do you?
No. So when did she go from that catatonic state to then dead?
We don't know, I don't think.
We don't. Yeah, they must get God at some point. But then he himself becomes almost an extension or a hallucination used by the ghost, because we probably see the most, with the exception of Rika, the domestic assistant, we see maybe a lot more of Hitomi's story, because she goes back to the office. She has another day at work. She starts getting these phone calls, and you get the creaking, horrible, like, iconic sound that we get of the Grudge. That's it. That noise. And she's on the phone.
Death rattle.
It gets worse. The little teddy bear, little mascot on a phone, gets knocked off in the toilets, and then a big shadow comes out. So she runs and tells the most put upon security guard in the business, who's like, yeah, toilets on the 15th floor, you say, right up there, is it?
I gotta say, like, everything up to this point and beyond in the American version is like exactly the same, even to the point where I was like, I swear that's the same actor playing the security guard. Like, it just felt exactly the same.
I don't know why at all that Shimizu wanted to make the same film exactly the same 3 times.
Well,
that is what he did.
Yeah, with money, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but whoever says, like, make this exact same film in the remake, they go, just make it again.
I know they rewrote it because Sam Raimi was there going, "Oh, it doesn't really make it. It's scary. He's a great director, but it doesn't really make much sense. So we're going to have to rewrite the script so it makes more sense." But I guess they kept a lot of the set pieces and added more characterization and spelt out the stuff that was less obvious.
Yeah, I think all this stuff, like in this building and in the apartment after, is really effective, especially when we see the ghost of Kayako are like in the CCTV footage of that. Like how obviously there are lots of ways in J horror that like spirits and specters seem to appear, affecting technology. TV screens with static and flickering and stuff. But I think this is really effective. How it's like a sort of black shape that just kind of appears at the door and then comes closer.
Slurps off the security guard on the CCTV. That's really effective because it's got the same energy that we would later see in films like The Signs, where old M. Night gave us some of the scariest moments of that film with characters watching something on television. And we get this here as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
When she is watching the security guard just sticking his head, and he's obviously feeling awkward, like, you're in the ladies, and I need to make sure no one's in there. He's like, is at the door, like, hey, is there a ghost in it? And then you see, and like, we're not sure whether he sees this or not because you're only seeing it through the monitor, like this shadow come up and almost kind of sort of coax him into the room almost. It's kind of, it just draws him away. And then Hitomi runs off and heads home. Toshio's like, this is the bit that we see in the lift, and he's by the doors. He's like Droopy Dog, this kid. Like that wolf is running and like going across the ocean and slamming and locking all those doors, and he's just in the kitchen behind him. Yeah, his little face as they go past the floors. That's another really effective scene. Like ghosts that the characters don't even see.
Yeah, definitely. It's good.
And did you guys ever hear about Elisa Lam?
No.
Oh wait, is
Really?
that the girl? Is that the girl in the lift from the? Wait.
Okay.
Wait,
Real life story of this girl called Elisa Lam, which was really weirdly reminiscent to Dark Water. I can't remember the year. I think it was like 2011 or something. You can Google it though. Where she was in what?
2013. I have just
was it? She
yeah.
was filmed on CCTV in the hotel, the famous.
Oh yes,
they
Cecil
made a Netflix
Hotel.
They made a Netflix
where she was like running in
the
elevator and like she was scared of something, and then she got found dead in the water tank on the roof.
It's the same. It's like pretty much the same as Dark Water, isn't it?
It's really freaky. And I always think about it anytime I see elevator scenes in J horror, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, no one still knows what happened, but I mean, the idea is that I think she was bipolar, so people thought maybe she was having an episode or something, but
she could have equally just been J horrored.
Yeah, exactly.
Running away from Toshio. Yeah.
Exactly.
Toshio looking through those doors of the lift at her as she goes up.
So Hitomi goes and hides in her apartment, hides under the duvet, which I think is a perfectly good.
She uses two good decompression methods. She gets under the duvet and she puts something unconnected to horror on the telly. Put a bit of nature on. Put a bit of David Attenborough on, calm you right down.
Yeah. Stick Dave on,
just can you imagine if they'd done that in the American remake? Instead of that, had like Sir David and have him suddenly like go all warped and turn into a Kayako and goes, now these predator. She comes out.
You're right, David. You're having a stroke.
David does wear a lovely pale blues like Toshio does.
Yeah, I think people get caught up in the idea that J horror is kind of tech phobic or something, but actually it does seem like more it's attacking all these things that make you feel safe. So like putting the TV on, even CCTV, it's like meant to keep you safe at the end of the day, and your mobile and ringing somebody. I don't know. It's like just infiltrating all these things that you feel safe around.
Yeah, they're kind of corrupting that. And in many ways, that's how they get you, because, it goes all warped and then the face is there. And the next thing you know, a teddy bear that she lost in the toilets is back in her hand.
That's all right. It's good. Oh, I thought I lost this. Oh, I found it again.
Yeah. In my hand the whole time. It's always the way. But then this is the point that you mentioned, Jasper, right? When she's She's hidden under the covers, and then she, oh, this is lumpy. Well, it's only a Kayako under the duvet, under the doona.
And it slips her off into the where did they go? The Phantom Zone.
Just oblivion.
Yeah, she gets tucked under the duvet.
Yeah, and then disappears off into
like sort of jaws under the water, sort of grabbing her down.
It's effective though. Scary eyes under the duvet.
Better than the killer toupee in Grudge 2, of course.
Wait, what?
I've missed out on not watching the sequel to The Killer Toupee.
Where the makeup
reviewed the wrong film.
Is menaced by the hair that crawls along, being dragged along the floor on a bit of wire.
That's one of the best transformation scenes of Kayako, I think, in the series, where she comes out of the toupee.
She comes out of the toupee.
Yeah, they're in the dressing room, so the toupee, I don't know, it's literally coming along like this, and then it turns into her.
Yeah, it morphs into it.
I think the number one best bit is when this woman is giving birth, and she comes out instead of a baby.
Well, this is it. This is in the J horror virus, isn't it? Because that was a little sequence. I was like, I don't think I've seen that before.
Yeah, she climbs out as this pregnant woman.
Yeah, the Grudge 2's got some pretty effective bits in it. There's the other bit where someone gets hung by her hair, and then you look up and see Kayako like Spider-Man stuck on the ceiling, their head dangling down as a noose.
It feels like in the Grudge, she's just going about standard kills, you know, and in 2, she's like, I've got to mix it up a bit. I've got to keep it fresh. She's like, I'm brainstorming here. Right, hang someone by my hair. Good.
Looking at the ring, saying, "Oh no, this is who I'm gonna have to beat."
Come out of a toupee.
One moment that scared me when I was a kid was in the American remake Grudge 2. The lead actress, blonde girl, I forget her name, but she's in Lights Out. She, what is her name? It's like Tamara or something. Anyway, she is in a locker room getting changed after doing PE or something, what they do in America. And
yeah.
I just think Americans doing PE, it sounds wrong. Anyway, she looks over and like there's no one else around, and there's like, it looks like someone's coat is hanging up by the locker, but then the more you look, it's more like hair, and then it's the Grudge girl. So
Teresa Palmer.
It makes you look at any sort of cupboard full of clothes, and you sort of, for the rest of your life, you're sort of looking closer.
Is that a jacket, or is it a hairy ghost?
Is that Kayako in my closet?
She could be a coat, she could be hair, she could be a wig, she could be your pregnancy, anything.
Yep, anything at all. Okay, so next chronologically is when Rika gets sent by her boss, Hirohashi, played by Ted Raimi in the American remake as well, which I thought was really interesting, to care for the mum. And that is when, this is kind of weird, though, isn't it? Because she discovers Toshio in ghost form here, right? Yeah?
No, in normal form first. He's like, what's your name? He goes, Toshio. It's all right.
Toshio, leave me alone.
He doesn't speak. Does he?
No.
Meows.
Doesn't he talk to her when she's on the stairs? Just hello. What's your
He
name?
doesn't speak.
He walks off, doesn't he?
Does he just walk off? Just
I
walks
thought
off.
he
Does
calls
a big
after
meow.
it. I will admit that the last time I watched this for my original showing, I promised watch it properly, but because I had to split my attention rewatching it for this one, I had to go dubs, didn't I? So they had lovely, they had very London accents. So maybe in the dub,
Did they really?
Maybe in the dub, he does go
London accents.
Yeah, they're all like they're not like East End London, but they're like
proper British accents.
Right.
Yeah, it's proper like BBC British. Like, hello, what's your name? And he goes, and certainly in the dub, I picked away because otherwise I wrote his name down. Like
maybe he does say
Toshio.
his name.
She goes, what's your name? And he goes, Toshio. Here, my name's Toshio.
Well, it's Toshio. What's your name? Okay, and that's when obviously Rika witnesses Sashi, the mum, being killed by Kaiko's ghost. This is an effective scene, isn't it, where she kind of just appears above her, and it causes Rika to faint, and then she's like there all day, like just
Till the
lying
boss
there.
comes around and goes, sake, I've asked Rika to do one job, cover for me on this one occasion.
Rika looked like she's having one of those really bad hangovers, when you don't know whether this is the end or not, and you're kind of just lying there staring at the ceiling or the wall, going, "Oh bloody hell!" That's what she looks like.
It's a good callback though. Fainting, we don't do it so much nowadays. That's a proper Victorian era feint that she pulls there, harkening back to a day, Victorian era where you could have a stressful week and literally die.
Well, bloody hell, it's been a stressful week.
I'm sorry, Ben. I've come down with a brain fever. I'm gonna have to move to the seaside for a year or risk death.
Not a brain fever.
Oh, I've got a proper brain fever on me. I've got a right org. I'm not long for this world.
I do like Twitter threads where it's just like, these are things that would put a Victorian boy in a coma, and it's just like a series of different things. Lucky Charm cereal.
Yeah, I think honestly, just learning Toshio's name, the fact that he ran away and didn't say how do you do, that would have put a Victorian person in a.
How do you do? Well, how incredibly rude. Okay, so then Hirohashi finds Rika, contacts the police. The detectives come round, and that's when they discover the bodies in the attic, and then they learn of Hitomi's disappearance and the death of the security guard at the workplace by reviewing the CCTV footage. And then we see a little shot that obviously we didn't see from earlier, which is where Kayako just, I don't know, what does she do? Just peers into the camera?
Yeah, she has a little look. But does she look at that when the other police are viewing, or does she only do that when does she only do that when the old detective has been pulled back in to look at it?
Is that a real question?
Is that a real question? Yeah.
Do all the detectives see that, or is it a change when only he comes back and looks at it? Because she's
I'm just looking at the link Sarah's just sent over. I think I've seen something like this before. Things women in literature have died from, and this is fantastic. Cold hands. I mean, could happen. Happens to the best of us. Beautiful face. What? Seeing a beautiful face or having a beautiful face?
Both.
Missing slippers. I'll tell you what, that's pushed me over the edge more than once. Someone said no very loudly when they're in the room. I know what that feels like, though. When you don't expect someone to be aggressive to you, and then they do. You come over a bit.
I've almost died on several occasions in our modern era of the 2020s because there's someone being a little bit narky on a train.
Hang on a minute. Here, there's too many.
I was on a train out of London, Ben, and there was some woman who was very drunk on the train, kicking off to her mates, going, right, I'm going to go to the toilet now. If you eat my fucking nuggets, I'm going to kick off. And then she was trying to get into the toilets on the train, and there was someone already in there, and she was banging on the door. I had to move carriages. I wasn't ready for this kind of confrontation in my life.
Jesus, don't eat my nuggets. Here on the list, too many pillows and then not enough pillows. Hopefully it's not the same person.
Like Sarah was saying about it being hot in the foyer and then cold in the thing. That's the same principle. Yeah. Things that do change, but you can die from that.
This one's great. Spent more than a month in London after growing up in Yorkshire. How much for a pint?
Stop! I'm gonna have to leave in a minute. If you carry on, I can't stop laughing.
Okay, well, maybe leave it at that. The last one is the last one I'm going to read out is spinal degeneration as a result of pride. Sorry?
Oh, standing up too straight because of pride. Or wear your spine out.
That's good. If you enjoy that, please also look at the things that would put a Victorian child in a coma, because that's also
link in the show notes.
Things from the modern age that would put a Victorian child in a coma. Just as enjoyable as that list. Okay, where are we at next? So Rika essentially is getting haunted by the ghosts after this, which is the scene behind you, Andy, where they're just lurking while she's in bed. Proper annoying, isn't it? Because you just be like, how do I get rid of them? They're haunting me.
I just went to I just covered a shift at work, and now this is happening. Little boy sitting on the end of my bed.
And I feel like, is she thinking, is she going to dribble on me?
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I mean, what would you be thinking if she's staring at you like that?
Do you reckon she'd be blowing on her ever so like, do you want to sleep?
No, she's
It's
doing
like-
that thing where you dribble a bit, but
Yeah.
you don't let it go.
Suck it back
No,
up.
no, I hate that. I've seen it. I've seen a video of that where someone does it like to the floor, and then that's ridiculous. You've been drinking too much orange juice or something. No, you couldn't sleep either, could you? I can't sleep when even if I.
If someone's threatening to
feel
gob
someone
on me,
watching.
no.
Well, so
She's standing there, like, obviously we only see this little clip of it, but I imagine, like, if that she has to escalate after a while, and after Rika just gets so tired and is just falling asleep, she's like going, ha, ha, like putting her hand right near her face, like, stop it, please. I'm exhausted.
this is when the detectives start doing a bit of research into the history of the house and the murders. They contact a retired detective named Toyama. He's afraid of visiting the case. He's like, oh, that. And then he goes to burn the house down, doesn't he? But yeah, this is a weird thing. So this is a bit of a time jump, isn't it? A slight time jump when the teenage girls are in the house.
Does he see? Does the ghost? Does Kayako make him see the future of his daughter? Is it his daughter?
I was a bit confused by this bit.
It's his daughter, right? She was a little girl when they tried to recruit him. Does he see her in the future when she is a teenager? Because it's his. Because later his picture is in the house that the older teenage girl is in. That is what I took away from it. Maybe I completely misunderstood it.
Yeah.
I can't say I haven't scrutinized it recently, but I know one of the teenage girls turns up in Ju-on 2 is the only person. She's one of the only ones that survives from the first film, and she gets her own segment.
Ah, okay. Yeah, because I think it's pretty much just her who survives in the first film, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my takeaway is that she is the detective's daughter who was drawing on the floor, because then his picture in the future, when that teenager is in it again, is in his house, and his mom and the mom is looking at it going,
Yeah, he's on the shrine. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, oh, your dad's
Yeah,
dad's
right,
fucked
yeah.
off. So
There
I
was a weird.
assume that's his daughter that like is grown up, but it's never made expressly. And I don't need like Marvel movie style 26-inch letters saying 6 years later or whatever else, but it's not made particularly clear. But my takeaway was that my takeaway was that it was her grown up, because when the police come to recruit the retired detective, he's like, I'm out of this. He goes, no, come on, pull you back in for one more job. He goes and he watches that video where we see the security guard get killed and then Kayako appear. Spyglass in the old camera there. Can I see you? And then he makes the decision immediately. He's like, right, thought it over. I'm going to petrol that house, petrol it to shit, mate. And he's straight over there, couple of tins of petrol, wazzing it about the place. And then he sort of sees a vision of 3 teenagers upstairs. But then it's a trick, and it's Kayako. She just, tell you what I want to show you. After that glimpse of the future, I'm going to show you how good I am at crawling down the stairs. It's dead hard, this.
Yeah, so that's like the iconic scene of crawling down the stairs. Of course, if that's happening, just sit at the bottom of the stairs terrified. I guess you're frozen by fear.
Because all 3 detectives are in the house at that point.
Oh yeah, they're all like.
I feel like they're doing like
in some of the shots, 1 or 2 of them are just like sitting there and they're not even screaming or.
They're sort of shaking, aren't they? And a sort of, the director said, shiver and look scared. And it's sort of...
I feel there's a moment to that. It's almost if you put in the Scooby-Doo noise when they're trying to run and they're just sort of running on the spot.
Yeah.
Why am I not going anywhere? Yeah, but then this is when she does one of the most iconic and creepy crawls down the stairs, right? I know she does another couple yet, but
yeah, she gets a couple more stair descends in, doesn't she?
Mm.
Yeah. So what's next?
Chronologically, is this when Rika's a little bit better and she's
like moved on with her life.
A mate's got tickets to a concert, invites her to come that night. Results.
Fantastic.
And there's that old man. And at first I was like, have you inserted pervy old man character who is looking at her bum through the window? But no, it's okay. He's actually playing Peekaboo the ghost boy. It was wrong of me to judge him.
Just want to make that assumption. Well, it sounds like a terrible excuse. What are you doing looking at me through the window? I'm just playing peekaboo with a ghost boy. Don't worry about it.
Because there's an old man who's sat in the, like, Rika's outside talking to a friend. He's properly playing peekaboo out the window, looking like to judgmental people that he's staring at Rika's bum, especially as like this other fella comes along. He's like, all right, good morning. He's like, oh, fuck out of it.
You're ruining my train of thought.
But he plays peekaboo, and then you see, this is the great bit as well. I think Jasper mentioned it, where where she's like pushing the old man around in his wheelchair, taking him for some time outside, and he's like looking over and playing peekaboo. And then as you get to the window, you see Toshio's like walking alongside. He's quite friendly with the old man, though. I guess the old man's never been to his house.
They got a bit of a rapport going.
I guess the old man, Toshio, died a while back, right? He could have been one of his mates. Maybe not that long ago. It's kindred spirit. He's continued to age up as a ghost. He's probably into similar things.
Is he like really? Is he too?
Where is he now?
Inherently evil, though. Toshio, really? Is he?
He's sort of playful, isn't he? I think.
Yeah.
He kills anyone, does he?
No,
It's
I don't think he
does
does.
the death.
Can't get it. Does the bloody murder?
I don't know. I reckon I'd still credit Toshio with an assist on a number of these murders.
Just an assist.
Yeah.
So when is it that Rika kind of witnesses Kayako again, and then she kind of looks like her, doesn't she?
Well, I guess this is the end of the film, but chronologically, does this happen before this? Is this her major haunting moment?
I think this is like essentially the end of the film chronologically, and the end of the actual film as well. So what does this mean when we see Rika sort of Kayako look like Rika? Are we meant to believe that she is doomed to like play out the curse, have the same fate as
Those
Kayako?
of you that have seen anything, does that come back in? Does Kayako go on to inhabit other people in later movies?
Is it just like one of those things where they go, we're going to end on this, but we're never ever going to revisit it in any of the sequels? Because I'm essentially like Rika is killed as well, because we do see the final shot, which is obviously Rika with long hair, similar to Kayako, in the house's attic, and then she does the old death rattle noise as well.
Yeah, it's very, very strange. And that death rattle, I mean, this is. So we'll come back to the death rattle, because the only thing we haven't touched on is the fact that we get, after the detectives have disappeared, we also get something where his daughter, allegedly, or at least as far as I'm concerned, has grown up, and then she's there with her teenage friends. She starts to become more and more disturbed and is like papering up her windows. Some other girls have gone missing potentially. They get the teacher to get the photos back, and then a commonality, I guess, that we see with the Ring, where the photos have been distorted, whereas in the Ring we see their faces all twisted. In the Grudge, everyone looks like they're wearing those little tiny Morpheus sunglasses in the picture. They've got their eyes burned out in there. They all look like Morpheus on their photos. Or at least everyone that's disappeared has, like people that are marked by it, but there are a couple of people untouched.
So in a way, it's almost like that. It is becoming like a bigger curse that's literally affecting lots of people rather than being sort of quite small scale, isn't it?
Yeah, and is it like marked people appearing? Like, you've seen more than me in this. Is this a common theme, or is it just the Grudge and the Ring where you see people's image in photographs being distorted by being afflicted by these curses in some way?
Yeah, I think that's quite a common motif, isn't it? Show the sort of curse of. I think there might be a bit of that in Uzumaki, actually. Spirals infecting people's faces.
You look like a snail in this picture.
I can imagine it is in other films, just because, like, I don't think it is in Shutter, but the whole idea of a photo being your soul and things, like, I can't think of an example right now though that where I can see that happening.
And your soul is marked, and that's why you look like shit in this photo. That's what I'm gonna say whenever it takes a bad photo of me. I'm gonna say, yeah.
Goosebumps episode, say cheese and die.
Oh yeah, Ryan Gosling himself.
second episode on a trot that Goosebumps episode Say Cheese and Die has been mentioned.
Maybe we have to do
Really?
maybe we'll do a special bite-sized episode then on the Patreon where we'll cover
Jasper.
Ryan Gosling's Say Cheese and Die.
Jasper, you probably don't know it, but Ryan Gosling's first ever appearance was in Goosebumps in Say Cheese and Die. And in the plot is fairly obvious. They find a very old camera, take photos, and then whoever they take photos of dies.
It's very like dies in like a Goosebumps way, isn't it? It's like this person will fall down the stairs, or my dad's car will get scratched, or
I think what happens is that they take a photo of the person and the person does not appear in the photo. Is that true?
and
then they die?
Oh.
There's definitely one with a car where he takes a photo of the dad's new car, and then the picture,
And then it's all
car's
crashed.
absolutely fucked, and then and then he crashes it.
It goes really weird because they go to this huge warehouse to find this creepy dude with weird boogly eyes. I feel like he's got this goggles.
He's got a
on.
boogly eye, right?
I feel like I watched this recently.
It sounds like you did.
It's on something, isn't it? Like I'm not sure what
What's
it's on.
the difference between a boogly eye and a googly eye?
I don't know.
A
I'm
boogly eye's
imagining
more
it,
inserted.
those eyes where you've got the eyeballs where they come out on the spirals, But
Yeah.
I don't think it was that. I think it was goggles.
Yeah, special goggles. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to do Say Cheese and Die as one of the
It's a fantastic photo.
the key moments
of
of
Ryan
General
Gosling.
Goosebumps. It's just
Yeah.
great.
Fantastic photo of Ryan Gosling. I've just put in the chat. Just looks very, very upset.
the only thing I can tell
He's
you.
always going to be a star.
Anything I can tell you about Ryan Gosling, he appeared for a while. I credit to a podcast I listened to called Do Go On and a guest called Joel Dusha who said this, that Ryan Gosling, who would go on to be in Young Hercules, his excuse that he left the program was that he cared too much about the character. I care too much about Young Hercules. I have to quit this show.
Wow. Takes it seriously. And that is the film.
Just The Grudge, that's it. So we end. This is my prevailing memory of The Grudge as a film. So, as we've mentioned, this is all out of sequence, but the final bit where Rika has a final confrontation with Kayako, and we end up with a stair crawl, and we end up in a first-person view of the camera, right, with her crawling almost towards us, the viewer, as if to say, hey, I have a curse up here. First time I ever watched The Grudge, I was... like mentioned, I was big into going in and burning my student loan on these Tartan Asia Extreme DVDs that I could find when you could get one, and The Grudge was the latest one that I had picked up. I watched The Ring at this point. I was huge into Battle Royale. I was like, yes, this is going to be the next one. I'll watch The Grudge. Made the mistake of putting it on quite late at night. I had a couple of friends over trying to watch The Grudge, but we were dead tired and we were falling asleep. So rather than just being sensible and saying, tell you what, turn this off, I'll watch this in the morning, I was determined to try and stay awake. So I stood up for a little bit and I walked around as I was trying to watch it. And then I ended up sort of led on the floor, the hard floor of my parents' living room, in front of the TV, rather than on the comfy sofa. But that was still not enough to keep me awake. And I did manage to fall asleep really close to like a big, enormous, proper kill stew from Scream heavy TV as well. Lying there in front of it, and then I woke up as the film ended. So you're casually there, just asleep, then waking up, and then I was like Rika with Kayako leering over me in the night. So just this screen, enormous screen about I don't know, I was about 30 centimeters away from, so it's literally right in front of the TV with this big like noise, looking up, and I was like, oh, horrible way to wake up. I had to go and put some David Attenborough on to get to sleep.
I had that exact same thing where I had a friend over when I was like 15 or something, and we fell asleep when we had put the DVD of The Ring on, and we fell asleep and the DVD menu would just loop. And I think that the image on the DVD menu was, where that the camera goes really fast up to Amber Tamlin's face, where she goes after she's seen the Sadako come out of the TV. And so it's on a loop. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night and just seeing that and being like,
no, what have I done? I've been cursed.
Terrifying. I think about the same.
worst.
All DVDs used to start with that. You wouldn't steal a car thing, and it goes doon, doon, and the film would end and just restart on that. So if you fell asleep, you were screwed.
And
Heart
the same
attack.
font from Scream
Heart
as well.
attack. Fuck! Oh, I won't steal a film.
Trying to
There we
drill
go.
it into you while you're asleep. You wouldn't steal a film. You wouldn't steal a film. Get off that eBay and get your VCDs and stop supporting piracy, you dog.
There we go then. That's due on the Grudge. Covered. We're going to play a little bit of name game. Have you got any name game, Andy?
Got a couple for you, Ben, actually, yeah.
Very nice. Okay, so just explaining the rules of name game. We're going to give you a synopsis, Jasper and Sarah, a synopsis to a movie that sounds a little bit like Due on the Grudge, but
It's
isn't
fictional,
The
though.
Grudge.
It doesn't exist.
Fictional, doesn't exist. It sounds a bit like it, and it will basically rhyme with Due on the Grudge. Very simple. But as soon as you get one, you'll realize how it works. But Andy, have you got?
Yeah,
What's
sure.
the-
So what's the synopsis, Ben? And I will invariably fail to stick to it, but here we go.
A mysterious and vengeful spirit marks and pursues anybody who dares enter the house in which it resides.
Okay, so a mysterious and vengeful spirit proceeds to wait for its victims to just be trying to write something, then it bloody knocks their arm.
What? What is going on?
What's that film called?
It's called The Nudge.
The Nudge. There you go. Got it.
Ah,
Said, as soon as you get one, you'll get the rest.
I get it.
Wow.
I got one.
Go on.
Okay. A mysterious and vengeful spirit called Judy marks and pursues anybody who dares enter the courtroom in which she resides.
The judge.
judge.
Judge. Very good. You
judge.
see? Is the one then for you? So, a mysterious and vengeful spirit. In the sequel to the last one, she's escalated from nudging, but she does wait for people to finish writing something, then just gets to film on that and just wipes it across, ruining what they've written.
Grudge.
The smudge, correct.
Oh my god. I
Wow.
had smudge and nudge written down, Andy.
Yeah. Do you want me to do one more? I've got another one.
I got another one.
You got
I'll
another one?
for
Go on then.
one. A mysterious and vengeful spirit marks and pursues anybody who dares enjoy rich condensed milk.
The
all round-
fudge.
Fudge indeed.
Yeah. Oh, this is a lovely bit of fudge. This is. What's that? Kaiko.
I was
Kaiko.
got
Ruins
that
your
one.
life.
I've got like, having mended her ways, a once vengeful spirit makes amends by buying everyone a quintessential gift from Cornwall and the West Country.
Yours is much better. Yours is much better. I should have let you go first. That's what I mean.
No
that's
other
all
words
I've
rhyme
got.
with grudge, right?
That's it. I mean, I did have
Oh.
Pudge, but that's not very good.
I'll go
Sludge.
on one. Oh, there you
Oh,
go. One
sorry.
for the road. So a vengeful ghost curses anyone that enters her house by meeting them on public transport and quite rudely just asking them if they can move over a bit so she can sit where they are. Budge, correct.
Budge over, would you? Get your bag off the seat next to you. That's incredibly rude. There we go then. That's it. Now,
These
last thing we
films
got
would
to do...
all be better.
They would.
They make
Can you
all.
imagine?
Sounds like they've got more narrative cohesion. I would pay
Yeah.
to see the fudge.
They've got a plot.
I'm definitely more scared of Judge Judy than I am Kayako. Terrifying.
Oh, and you
okay.
could have in when you inevitably get through the series, you could have like Judy versus Rinda, all the famous judges like battling it out.
Judy versus Rinder. That's
She's
the only-
coming out of a telly.
Judge
He's coming out
Dredd.
of your mobile phone.
Amazing.
All these
Okay.
judges.
The last thing we got to do is rate the film A to F. Pluses and minuses are allowed. We'll let Sarah and Jasper go first as the J horror
D minus.
experts.
Straight in, Sarah.
Wait, what minus?
D minus.
D minus.
It's not my fave.
These get degrees, Ben. That's all right. It's acceptable.
Just about passes. Just about.
Must try harder.
Jasper, can you be a little bit more?
I would go for B minus. I think it is sort of incomprehensible when you watch stuff all together. You've got this sort of weird jigsaw piece, sort of portrait of a bigger story. I think there's some individual set pieces are very good, but it's not my favorite J horror by a long chalk, and I often seeing it, like a sort of cashing in on the success of the other ones personally.
Yeah, I think that basically just the simple fact that he remade the exact same thing over and over again, but didn't seem to want to add some plots or just.
Well, he didn't really, because the video ones are like sort of prequels that they flesh out a bit of. I mean, basically, if you look at the whole thing as like an 8-hour film with all the bits.
Where she comes down the stairs over and over again, though. It's
he
quite
did
similar.
repeat the same set pieces again and again.
Yeah, it's basically what he did was think up these set pieces and then tried to work around them every time. And you know, it'll be. I haven't seen anything else that he's done that I thought was really good. So
yeah,
I'm being obviously quite harsh, but
Arabito, The Stranger from Afar, I think is
okay,
that's the best film he's ever done. The one he did between The Grudge and the Hollywood remakes, he did it in about 2 weeks, and that's possibly one of the most interesting J horrors there is.
It is actually, yeah.
What he needs is time pressure.
Yeah, not being told to cash in on his old successes, I guess.
I'm going to go for a C+, I think. After watching some other J horror in the week leading up, it didn't affect me as much as some of the others. I think it's good though. It's got some interesting visuals, but yeah, watching the American remake as well. It's no Dark Water, no, exactly. That felt like that was the best example of like a supernatural story with some really human stories at heart, and it felt like it cared about the characters and the plot as well, where I felt like this kind of it forgoes that for just the scares, just the greatest hits, I guess, of coming down the stairs. Andy,
if anyone wants to watch Kayako, I would definitely recommend American Grudge 2 as my favorite of the whole.
It looks like the director made that as well.
Yeah,
American Grudge 2.
I think that was the last one.
It's my favorite. It's quite scary. I think
I pick those up and I go through those ones. I think just to be a completionist, go for the first one, then get there. My rating, Ben, I'm going to go. It's in the middle of all of you, I guess. I'm going to go a C- because I think you recognize those set pieces. You know, like the ghost under the covers coming out of the distortion of the TV, and for sound work alone, I think the sound is effortlessly haunting, and that does have its place amongst the best of some of the things that you'll see from the genre. But it is hard to keep a thread of these things, especially when you're going to do something more complicated with time skips and everything like that. And I know that perhaps the rest of the series does fill this in, but I'm not sure I've got that type of energy in my life to be like, right, I need to watch all of these and then also be making notes so I can then make sure that I understand it in the right order. Sometimes
it should work on its own.
Yeah, just want to watch a film, you know? Like let me just enjoy my life. Don't be leaning over me when I'm trying to sleep, thinking about the things that haven't quite worked out. So it falls down a bit for me on that one. But I think as set pieces alone, like you could pick half a dozen scenes from this film and just show it in isolation and say, look at this short, scary thing. It's just the connective tissue between them that maybe lets it down a bit.
My favorite scene is the CCTV. That is the first one, right? Because they all sort of blur.
Yeah, that's in the first one.
But where the lights are shutting off as she's coming closer down the corridor.
Or maybe that's a later. Oh, I don't remember.
Is that in the second one? I don't know.
No, that's the first one. That's the first
one, yeah.
No, blacked it all out. Too scary.
I'm definitely going to check out The Grudge 2, and I'll probably check out Sadako versus Kayako as well. The Grudge match.
And check out the Netflix series, which is the same screenwriter as The Ring and Dark. So it's a lot more narratively coherent.
Have you guys watched Rings?
Yes, I have.
I haven't seen Rings.
It's a bit, but I would always say you should try it. Definitely.
What about that the one with the trailer where she comes out of the airplane screens?
Yeah,
that's how Sadako gets about.
Jesus.
It was a really good trailer. It made me think it was going to be really good, and then I think that's like the set piece front scene or something like that, and it's not remotely in
just
the
the
film.
cold open is not in the film.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's coming through small screens now. She's going to be coming out of a Game Boy Advance next.
Should come out of little tiny ones like little Ash from Army of Darkness comes out all tiny.
Oh wow. what about Ring Zero?
Oh yeah, yeah, it's good. Scary. Watch it.
I've got a real soft spot for Rasen, which was the sequel to Ring, the Ring novel that was released on a double bill with the original Ring, but obviously were not made in with either director telling them what approach they were going to take. So basically, as I said, Nakata transformed Ring into a sort of supernatural ghost story, whereas Rasen still sticks with this sort of romantic pseudo-science science fiction sort of aspect. So everyone compares it very unfavorably with Ring because it's not scary, it's not a horror movie, but it is actually, I think, an interesting movie in its own right.
Sounds good. Like
Right.
once again, I'm coming away from a session where my watch list has grown exponentially.
That's exactly what I'm doing now. Yeah, I'm just adding things to the watch list. Okay. Thanks so much for joining us, Sarah and Jasper. Where can our listeners keep up to speed with everything to do with you guys and the J Horror Virus? Obviously, lots of festivals for October as well. So good luck with those.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. This was fun.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Would it be best to follow the J Horror Virus on Twitter? Is that the best place to keep up with all the updates?
Yes.
Definitely, yeah.
It's the J Horror Virus, that on X.
That name's never going to stick.
No. I noticed on the news earlier, they still do on BBC, they still do X/Twitter when they're
the website formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? We can never criticize any film creators for running out of ideas and having bad ones because there's billionaires doing it all the time. Absolute stinkers. Everyone follow these things along because obviously when you get a chance to watch the J Horror Virus, if this has been of any interest at all, or you like the genre, you will come away with some great insights into the making of the film. You'll look at some of the themes behind it that the guys have touched on a little bit today as well, and much like any good horror documentary, you will come away with a big fat load of recommendations of stuff to catch up on. So if you're near any of the screenings, go see it live, support people making things like this. And if not, watch out for future news on releases where you'll be able to watch it at home as well. I'm sure the guys are working on it.
Awesome stuff. We'll put all the links for that in the show notes. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, become a patron over at patreon.com/horror hangout. Thanks to Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Please consider giving us a rating or review. Head over to the Facebook group, Horror Hangout Board of Advisors. We're now on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and from this week onwards, Discord. So hit up our socials and you can get a link for that. Next week, October begins. I'm not sure exactly what we're covering for the first week. However, it will be... we've got loads of awesome guests lined up. In October, we're going to be doing The Exorcist Believer. We're going to be covering the Forbidden Worlds Film Festival, which is showing things like Mimic and Christine and Night of the Creeps. So we're going to be covering that as well as some other films that we haven't 100% decided on yet. But we will put that out on socials very soon. But yeah, thanks again, Sarah and Jasper. Thanks for joining us. That was awesome.
Thanks
you.
Both.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. See you later.
Bye, everybody. Bye.